Yes. What an example of revolution. Bitcoin is immune from attack.
All right. Welcome to the Crypto Show. And this is kind of a special edition. We're not going to put this out on Bloomberg Radio because I think we might scare the hell out of those people. But this is about, well, Anarchapokel has kind of become the Coachella for anarchists. It's become a festival. And around these big festivals always pops up smaller festivals. You know, I'm here in Austin. We have South by Southwest in March, and there's just a whole host of different events that pop up around that. And this has kind of evolved to the same point in Acapulco with, wow, so many different events. Anarcha Forco. I mean, there's an Anarcha everything. And if you're asleep to this, well, then I guess we should find out something about Anarchawakening, right?
So today we have Macey Tomlin with us, who is, I believe, your lead organizer of Anarchawakening, yes?
I am. Thank you so much for having me.
So why don't you tell us about the origins of Anarchawakening and why you're doing this?
Well, I actually sat with the medicine of Ayahuasca, which is a plant from the Amazon jungle. It's two plants. It's a brew. And this medicine completely altered my life. And so after I started working with this medicine, I went to the jungle and I learned from the Shipibo tribe in Iquitos, Peru. And I've done about 6 months worth of apprenticeships in the jungle. And this medicine has really healed me in ways that I couldn't get with a psychologist. And so I really, my passion is to be able to share this medicine with others who are truly seeking it and have been interested in it. And so we wanted to offer a place for people to come that is very safe and protected, and where our main mission is to keep our integrity with this medicine, because that's the most important thing. And so we have a group of remarkable individuals, shamans and medicine men and women, facilitators of this medicine, who have worked with it for many, many years, have really become students of this medicine. And so basically, we're not only offering ceremonies, but we're offering an opportunity for people to connect with these medicine men and women beforehand, so they really can know their energy. I think that's really, really important. It's
Absolutely.
not just like you just walk into a ceremony and the shaman's there and then he disappears. And another thing that we really focus on is integration, because that is the most important part of this entire journey. The ceremony for people is only the beginning. And so we want to make sure that people have the help not only before, during, but also after. So you're never alone in this process. So we specialize in this medicine. Everybody who works with us has had experience with this medicine, and we really want people to respect it. So we have a massive amount of people coming who work with the safety of the medicine, because that's how we're going to keep it free. So we're all about the safety. We're all about the integrity. And ultimately what this medicine does is that it frees us. We're trying to free ourselves from the state and the government, but this helps us to free ourselves in the programming that we've undergone as children, so we can live a better life in the future.
Yeah, I have to say, and I'll share with the audience at this point that, for those who don't know, my wife and I participated in an ayahuasca ceremony on our honeymoon, which we had given a lot of thought about. We spent a week in the jungles of Brazil, in the Amazon jungle, debating whether or not we would even participate. But we had, as you suggest, an opportunity to spend time with the shaman who had been practicing for over a decade and had learned even 6 years prior to that, for the decade, prior. So he'd been involved in 16 years in learning to grow, learning to help, learning to teach, learning to conduct these ceremonies in nature. And with that sort of thing, I have to agree, it is an intensely powerful and changing experience, and you do need assistance, and it is freeing. I know for me personally, it created a heart-mind connection that I was never able to go back from. Up until that time, I had always advocated for empathy as a software developer, knowing that empathy was the way to improve development skills to create excellent interfaces that are conversational in nature. And what that experience did for me is it created a heart-mind connection that I could never ignore. And now I feel empathy in much deeper ways that I could never have imagined. So yeah, I have to agree. Like there are some, amazing things that happen, but there are also it needs to be treated with care and should not be abused. And I think that's what your environment is about. Yes.
Absolutely. Because, I just like you, I have seen where this medicine can lead and where it can go. And a lot of people, do use it for money, and there is bad intention going into this medicine too. And it is a gateway. It's a doorway to other worlds. And it can lead to, spontaneous mental breakdowns. So this medicine is not for everybody, and it shouldn't be used as a way to get high. This is to help to learn, to grow. It's for deeper exploration. And, like I said, this is why integrity matters in this medicine so much. The shaman that we actually have for the ayahuasca specifically is a shaman that I've been working with for a little over a year now. And he's been working with the medicine for almost 10 years. And he is absolutely one of the most kind-hearted people I've ever met, and can really, really hold space in a really, really protective way. And I've watched him do this, obviously. So I only work with shamans that I know, or my friends who are very into the integrity. They recommend somebody for me who is known for their integrity and for their work as well, and the credentials that they have, obviously. So every shaman that we have is known. Every shaman that's going to be at our event is actually, I've apprenticed with them in the jungle, so I know them personally. And that it really does matter when we don't know these people, we don't know their intentions, and there are tricksters in this world. So we have to be careful, because there is a dark side.
Are there traits or anything in people that you might notice that where you would say, okay, this person probably shouldn't try it? I know, I tried psilocybin with my wife, and it didn't work out so well for her, and it was kind of a scary situation. I think Chuck even had a situation similar to that. How do you determine if a person should not be doing this?
Well, the thing is that a lot of people, you really don't, we do a very, very extensive medical history background check to make sure that these people are not on medications that could be dangerous, mixing with ayahuasca or any of the other medicines. We make sure, I do Skype calls with these people to know where their mentality is. But even then, some people still have a very hard time with the medicine. So, we can do everything that we can as a background check, and sometimes the medicine can still be a little bit intense for people. So that's why you have to be really ready for it. You have to be really called. And if you're not, then wait. We are not out there to make money. We just want to be that safe space for people. So that is really, really important. And I really do want to put that forewarning down, that if you don't feel ready, then don't sit.
Right. And I should mention that, prior to actually doing the ceremony, my wife and I not only were in the jungle and immersing ourselves, but we were detached from all technology. We were isolated from society. We were very meditative. We were meditating every day. And we were fasting, and not just like a straight, hard fast, but very specific dietary fast of, what we would eat. We stuck with rice and beans, very simple, plain foods, little to no seasonings, those kinds of things. So I think that's all very important. And you talked a little bit about the integration process that happens after. And this is something that, I've been wanting to do some research. I want to do a little bit more study on this, but I think it has been demonstrated by scientists, if I can refer to a little bit of research that I came across, that not only are new neuronic creations being created after and during, but that as that part of that integration, you're basically reforming your brain as though you were a child. And so there, you have to be careful about what kinds of new neuronic creations you are creating, right? So it's important to be prepared, as you say, and be in a good state of mind so that the new neuronic creations are in fact positive and can bring you on a new trajectory for your soul path going forward. That's my current understanding. But I also, maybe you can speak to this a little bit. My understanding is that there may be some DNA reconstruction also. Are you aware of any of that?
I've heard of that. I've heard of vibrational frequency that changes our DNA. And that could very well be true. I haven't done enough research to say that is, for me, a conclusive statement. I have no way to prove that, but I have heard that it does reconstruct your DNA as well.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So we talked about who's doing this. It's you. It's a group of trusted shamans, essentially. We talked a little bit about how this is happening. It sounds like there's a safe environment. There's a bit of screening that goes on in the front end, and then the actual ceremony is conducted. And where and when is this occurring? Just so we get the logistics out of the way.
Sure. Yeah. So this is our conscious conference is happening at the same holistic center where we're going to be doing a lot of these ceremonies, and that's 15 minutes away from the Princess Hotel. So it's not very far, 15-20 minutes away from the Princess Hotel. We include transportation to and from the Princess, and we do ceremonies. We've got retreats and ceremonies planned. So we have 2 3-day retreats those happen on February 10th through the 12th and February 18th through the 20th. And then between there, we have ceremonies with not only ayahuasca, but 5-MeO-DMT, combo, cha dao, which is new. Actually, this is a very rare medicine, and it's not very intense. It's not as intense as ayahuasca. It's a very, very good medicine for grounding yourself in meditation in the daytime. And it's an 8,000-year-old tea practice. And then we also have cacao ceremonies as well. So we're also offering medicines that aren't as intense. You can still go deep, but not as going so deep with the DMT and crazy experience that you could have on that. So not as profound, but still very profound in the sense that you get to go deep and you still get to meditate, because you can reach these states without ayahuasca, without 5-MeO. We actually also have a breath worker who's going to be coming and doing 3-hour-long breath ceremonies where you can reach the same states as ayahuasca just with the breath. So we're offering quite a few different types of ceremonies, and those will be going through the 14th through the 17th.
So you've talked a little. Oh, go ahead, Danny.
Do these different medicines originate from different tribes? I know, like in the U.S., the American Indians are using peyote. I assume that there's a certain kind that's coming out of the Amazon that's ayahuasca. Which tribes does each medicine kind of go with?
Well, for 5-MeO, ayahuasca, and combo, they seem to come from the same place. The thing is that they don't mix 5-MeO and ayahuasca. You never hear about tribes because it's actually a very dangerous combination. So you never hear of people mixing ayahuasca and 5-MeO. Those medicines seem to originate in the same place. Combo is actually used to put on arrows to hunt their food, and then when they shoot the animal, the animal will throw up all the parasites, and so you'll have clean meat. So all of this comes from the same area, the same region. Cha dao comes from China, and cacao is used for ceremonies up here in Mexico. So we actually have a group of people who are from Mexico and Guatemala coming to hold ceremonies, and they have a very rare cacao bean that the Aztecs the Mayans and the Aztecs used to use. So we're very, very excited to have them back this year to be sharing their medicine again.
So I want to circle back a little bit to, we've talked about a lot of different, I guess some people will label them as substances, but I think the preferred language here is medicine. We've talked a lot about different kinds of medicines, and I think it's important to understand, why would anybody really participate? What kind of person should be participating in these kinds of ceremonies? Is there one thing for these kinds of things? my understanding, for instance, is that some of these could be used for depression. Some of these could be used to help with, really awakening and moving you forward, or, removing stagnation from your life. Or, if you're really kind of truth seeking, this might be a way to kind of open a new door that you might not have been able to access. What is the main, can you pick maybe 3 or 5 different reasons why somebody should be participating in this?
Sure. So for me personally, I have a lot of trauma, childhood trauma, that the plants have really helped me get through and to understand my subconscious mind and the patterns that it has created throughout the 28 years I've existed, and not known that there are patterns that have been caused from this childhood trauma. So if people are interested in learning about their subconscious mind, and learning about the trauma that's going on and healing from that trauma, this is really good medicine for you. For people who have been sexually abused, it's very good medicine for people who have been sexually abused, for addictions. Very, very good at helping with addictions. For people who are depressed, it absolutely helps with depression, because what this medicine can do is give you new perception on situations. People who have, more of a closed heart, like you said, that you gained a deeper sense of empathy. That's something that a lot of people attain using this medicine. So yeah, depression, anxiety too. It helps with anxiety as well. Learning how to breathe, that's a big one. That's what the plants are teaching us how to do, essentially, is to stay in our body and to live moment by moment.
Well, and I guess one of the things that I want to make clear to this is not like something that you need to be continuously treated with, right? As
no.
Western medicine.
No, and that's where that's where the integration comes in. Is that for me personally, I was a psychedelic activist at one point that was talking about LSD and what is the medicine? It's not medicine. It's Molly. Oh, yeah. And so I was talking about how all those heal. But for me personally, I cannot take synthetic drugs anymore. Not LSD, not Molly, any of those. I stay away from them. But, I needed them. I felt like I actually needed them to feel good, because I felt like I could be more myself in the other worlds than I could be in real life, which is not good. That's bad. So this is where integration comes in. So I've sat with ayahuasca probably 100 times at this point. And I haven't sat in the last 3 months because I'm still integrating my last experience. I realized how important it is to integrate your experience with this medicine. So I would say, when you sit, you have to learn how to integrate that medicine, or it's wasted. There's no point if you were just going to take it for a high. This is where the integration comes in, and how important the integration is, because you can't live in that world. We live here in the physical realms. That's where we are. And so we have to live here and take what we learned from that and apply it to our daily lives.
Well, I should say, for our audience, that the integration process has been, basically my wife has been going through the integration process of a near back-to-back ayahuasca combo ceremony for several years now. We're talking about 4 years now to integrate the results of those 2 ceremonies into what essentially has become a new personality, a new outlook on life, a new way of thinking. And those new ways of thinking have still kind of blossomed and fractalized into new ways of thinking. She's had to destroy a lot of old patterns over and over and over again. And to this day, that's still happening. And in some ways, that kind of continues the trauma, but in a way that's, I believe, very healing, because you're looking at things in a different way. What's your experience with the integration cycle in terms of its time frame, and what sorts of ranges have you seen? How would you caution people about how to prepare for the integration after a ceremony?
Well, I mean, this is something that I learned early on, because my first ayahuasca ceremony was in 2016, and it was so profound. It changed my entire life. I was like, I'm going to work with this medicine. But at the same time, I had no guidance. The shaman was gone. There was nobody to help me through this process, and I ended up becoming suicidal. So that's why I know that the integration is so important, because I did have a psychotic break at a point, and I needed to really heal from that. And it took me about a year to do so. I actually had to go back to the jungle, and my shaman the shaman that I work with now had to fix what the other shaman had done.
Right.
So that's where I learned about integration. Now I've gone to the jungle and had to come back after, months of being in the jungle and living in that world. So I have an idea of what integration looks like, because, it's hard. It's not an easy process to go into this ceremony, come out and have this whole new outlook. The universe is kind of going to test you afterwards, and you're going to be challenged with the energy of your old life. And until you, kind of settle what you've learned into your life, your life is just going to challenge you. And that's going to be a battle with that energy, that old energy that doesn't serve you anymore.
There is a breaking that needs to occur.
Yeah. And so what we focus on, we actually have quite a few people who are coming, who work with the medicine, who are all about integration. And for the people who are actually going to be sitting in ceremony, I definitely recommend these individuals' talks, because they're going to be talking about how to center your body and your mind and work with your body, because this is the physical part, and this is what really we need to integrate first. So the first thing is to be gentle with our bodies and to be gentle with ourselves through this process, because being human alone is not easy. Then adding the medicine and learning all these new things and having this spiritual awakening or this profound experience, going back into the real world can be a challenge. So the first thing is to be, and one of the most important things is to be gentle with yourself through this process. And that starts with your body, and then your mind. Talk gently to yourself. And just know that healing is also, it's not a quick fix. These medicines are not, they're not going to fix everything. They're just tools,
Right.
So.
Right.
Are there any dangers with people with maybe autism or Asperger's? I have a stalker with Asperger's, and I can only imagine this dude on this stuff. So
my mom says that I have Asperger's.
Okay.
You definitely, if you have a history of bipolar disorder or schizophrenia, especially bipolar 1, because there's 4 different types of bipolar, and sometimes we're very misdiagnosed. But if you do have a history of schizophrenia, you want to be careful. If you've had heart attacks, if you have any heart problem, really, if you're on any kind of blood pressure medication, you want to avoid ayahuasca. It's not for you.
Yeah, because it does increase the heart rate quite a bit, and there is a bit of body work involved.
Yeah.
With going through that.
What about, is there a person that's there with you handling this? I mean, because you're kind of you're out of it, right? You're not like in control.
Yeah,
taking care of you during this time that you're so vulnerable.
It's me. I'm the assistant through the ceremonies, and I've had training with this. I've watched the people in Peru do it. We're very gentle in that process when people are going through a tough time. If they need anything, and it's funny because under ayahuasca, you have a tendency not to want to call for help. You're like afraid to call for help. So I always tell people beforehand, just don't hesitate to call my name, and I'll be right over. And we talk. We've got orange juice set. If you're having too intense of a ceremony, we have orange juice on hand, so that kind of lessens the effects a little bit. But you always have help. You're never alone in this process. So there's always somebody there taking care of. We have 2 shamans too, and our ceremonies are very small. We don't fit 50 people into a room, and I don't think that's a good kind of setting to have all that energy there. I don't think the shamans don't either. So we have a very, very small ceremony. We don't allow up to more than 12 people, but right now we still only have about 7 people per ceremony. So it's very, very small, and we have 2 shamans.
Oh, that's good.
How does the orange juice work? Is this like an alkaline base, and the acid neutralizes it, or what?
Yeah, the citrus does. So if you I've actually done it because I hold ceremonies for myself now, and sometimes it'll be a little bit too intense, and I have to run and get my orange juice. So yeah, and it does work.
Yeah, I remember in the 80s and 90s when people were doing X, they were carrying around orange juice all the time. So
well, that enhances. So you would think that it would enhance. But actually, the citrus neutralizes the 5 MEOs in your stomach. Or, I'm sorry, 5 MEO. That's not the right. The MAOIs. I'm sorry, the MAOI in your stomach.
Interesting. Wow. So, gosh, it sounds like an incredible event. This is the first time that you're doing this around the Anarchawakening conference? Is that right?
Yes. Yeah.
And you're running ceremonies, you said, between February 10th and 12th, and then again between 18th and 20th, right?
We're doing, yeah. So we actually have ayahuasca ceremonies. We have about 8 ayahuasca ceremonies between February 10th and February 20th.
Okay.
And then during the day, we have combo ceremonies. We have 5-MeO and Cha Dao and cacao ceremonies.
Okay. Okay.
Is there something else besides the ceremony that's going on? Because are you guys having some like speeches or anything like that? Is there a conference type of this as well? Because I know I'm supposed to be bringing this badass picture down there to be the backdrop for your conference. So
yeah, we really appreciate you bringing that. We have a conference on February 13th, and this is a time for people to come and meet these shamans. We're going to have it's a celebration. It's a gathering and celebration of life, of personal freedom, of self-exploration and healing. So it's an all-day event. We're going to be doing yoga, cacao, sound bowl healing. We're going to have quite a few speeches and workshops. Sasha Day is going to be there, Sean Stone, Dr. Natalie Trent, who went to Harvard, and she's helping to bridge the gap between science and spirituality.
Will there be a Velcro wall?
I don't know. Are you bringing one?
I want to see a Velcro wall at one of these conferences just once, so I can run and stick on a wall.
Well, that would be very symbolic, because it is the ego that is very sticky that is, I think, being released in a lot of these cases.
Yeah, especially with 5-MeO. That's so the difference between 5-MeO, DMT, and ayahuasca is a lot longer. It's about 5 hours. 5 or 6 hours, can last a lot longer. 5-MeO is a 2-hour ceremony, and the difference is that ayahuasca targets the third eye, and 5-MeO targets the crown. So a very similar experience with the toad medicine for participants is that they become one with everything, and it's a complete melt of the ego.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that can be traumatic if you are very ego-driven and identity-oriented, right?
Correct.
So maybe that would be a caution.
Toad medicine, is that the one where you burn it into the skin, or are they smoking it, or what?
The toad is the smokable. That's 5-MeO DMT. That's the toad. The frog is the one that you burn into. It's the medicine that you burn into the skin. They say it's poison, but it's not. We don't put poison into our bodies. So it's medicine, and it clears out the gallbladder. It clears out the lymphatic system. It does a full detox. So if it's for people who are truly seeking a detox. It's very, very intense medicine. It's warriors medicine.
It is intense. Yeah, the combo, I have to warn people, like that one I did also, in addition to ayahuasca, and it's an intense body experience. Very, very white heat kind of thing throughout the body. It does pass. But I want to caution people that there are hurdles with this. There is work involved with these processes. But on the other side of it is, I think, great reward.
Yes.
So maybe you want to speak a little bit to the cautions. What sorts of concerns, cautions.
So the DMT that you smoke from the frog is the furthest out on the spectrum, right? It's the strongest one, correct?
I don't know. So I get to sit with this medicine for the first time on the 12th, and it's been really calling me. So, I mean, this is something that I really want to emphasize on is being called to a medicine. So like if you see toads everywhere, you're dreaming about it, or you're really feeling the energy of that medicine come through, that's being called. People ask me that a lot. 5-MeO, I'm not sure. And from what I've talked to about the facilitator, he said it's very hard to explain, just like ayahuasca. It's very hard to explain your experience with it. But he's a very good facilitator. And he even said, you had mentioned something about like high ego. He said, even people with high egos, the medicine will help to deteriorate that. But I could assume that if somebody has narcissistic tendencies, that this medicine could maybe I don't know, maybe not be too good for them, but I don't know. I haven't sat with the medicine, and I really can't speak on it. I do have a live feed up on my Facebook with the facilitator, and I can also give his information out to anybody who would like to speak to him.
What's the cost for someone if they want to have this experience?
For 5-MeO, it is $150. But that is, we don't want to charge for the healing. We just charge for the expenses and the medicine. And obviously we have to fly the shamans in and things like that. But we don't believe in charging for your healing. So you get a lot for these. So like our ayahuasca ceremonies, our individual ceremonies are $250. But in that cost, you're getting transportation to and from the Princess Hotel, and you're getting a night stay at the Holistic Center, which is really, really clean energy, and it's super protected. And you don't want to go back into, a hotel conference setting, after an experience like that. So ceremonies, we'll get to know about too. Yeah, no, you don't. And you want to stay with us until morning at least, and we'll take you home then. So you're getting a lot for the price. And I mean, this place is beautiful. You're not going to want to leave.
What about creature comforts, environment, meals? Like, how does that work logistically?
So you don't want to eat for ayahuasca. You don't want to eat dinner. So we're not going to cover that, obviously. And we'll probably bring buses at like 5:30 to the Holistic Center so we can get your intentions down. So you'll actually have a meeting with the shamans before you sit, so they can hear your intentions and they know what to clear from your energy field. And so, and then of course we have the ceremony that lasts from 8 to 1:30 or 2. And most of the time people want to talk about their experience and talk to the shamans. And then you have a beautiful room to go to sleep in. And then around 8 o'clock, 8:30, we'll take you back to the hotel.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, it sounds like a very intense experience. So, and you said right now you don't have any more than 7 people per ceremony?
Per ceremony.
The different ceremonies that you have?
Actually, it's less for the combo and it's less for the 5-MeO right now. I mean, it's actually something that I'm happy for. I'm really grateful that they're not super full. We can take about 6 people at a time for 5-MeO and for combo. But I know that it's working out the way that it's supposed to, and I would rather that we have small ceremonies.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Now I would caution the audience, like if you find yourself in one of these kinds of ceremonies where there are a lot of people and the ratio of, shamans to participants is very high. I don't know what that number is, but, go with your gut on this. Do not stay in that environment. Don't, I would suggest, postponing it to another time. And you talked about being called too.
Is there an ayahuasca Yelp?
I wouldn't trust it, honestly.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
that's the thing. This is the kind of thing where you need connection with other people to have a foundation of trust, I think, in order to really enter into that space. It should be entered in through a doorway of trust, I think.
3 frogs and $1 sign.
But you did talk about being called, and I also want to caution the audience that the ayahuasca was calling to me for 2 years prior, and I was first awakened to the idea of the thing by a banned TED Talk from who's that author? You know who
I know who you're talking about. Oh my gosh, the name is slipping for me as well. I've seen
the archaeologist he's written a ton of books. I forget his name, but anyway, it's a banned TED Talk. He talks about ayahuasca, how it healed him from a marijuana addiction. And, that's actually what kind of keyed me into it, because I had been abusing marijuana for the wrong reasons. And I think that the ayahuasca experience very much helped me to shed myself of that need.
How were you doing that? Were you using the plants to make rope instead of smoking them, or what?
Yeah, they didn't like what I was doing to them. No, I mean, realistically speaking, it was about emotions. I was using it as an emotional crutch. So if I was dealing with tough things, I would go to the marijuana.
I really feel like a chocolate shake. I think I'll smoke a joint.
But no, it helps me to find my own inner resilience and process emotions in a more effective way. essentially. So I don't need that stuff anymore to work through very painful things.
Beautiful. Yeah. Ayahuasca I was a pack-a-day smoker. I think I might've mentioned that earlier. And it took actually 2 years working with the medicine to actually give it up. I finally gave up smoking 7 months ago now. And it was because of a specific diet that I did, because the addiction went very deep. So I don't want people to get the wrong impression that, okay, you're going to come sit with us and, oh, I'm healed.
Right.
I think it's great when people do, because a lot of some people do come into ceremony and they walk out and they go, I don't need to smoke anymore. I don't need this. I don't need caffeine, and they're able to drop it. For other people, it's more of, it's a deeper issue. It's a deeper trauma that needs to be dealt with before that is released. And I definitely, we're speaking about the dangers, and I'm very, very happy to do this. I do not want to deter people away from the medicine. I just want people to know that, that there are safe places, and to make sure that they're looking for safe places, good reviews, and even the reviews, make sure that, for me personally, I would say, make sure you know somebody who knows the people, make sure that there's a direct contact.
Or even have one of your better friends alongside you that is sober, who can kind of watch your back, so that you're trusting a stranger essentially that's going to take care of you while you're in a state of non-control, I guess you would say.
Yeah, and it's a very vulnerable state. And in Peru, there is, I don't know how else to explain this, but there is like a Harry Potter war, like black magic war happening down there. And there are shamans that are not trustworthy, and people are vulnerable with them, and they can do bad things to you, mentally and emotionally, not even physically. So you have to be careful of who you're trusting, because for every one good shaman, there's 50 bad ones, You
wake up without a kidney.
Yeah, essentially. Go ahead.
That's the thing about these energetic realms, right? And a lot of people, I feel like there is an awakening happening, right? And that's kind of what this is a part of. Like, this is I think a seed of a larger awakening that I believe is happening on this planet. But there still are a lot of people who just don't believe that this stuff is anything more than a manipulator of the mind. And I think that there is a rising of consciousness that is helping most of us who are in this space to understand that there is something beyond ourselves, and that something has very much to do with our energetic state. And when we have experienced trauma in this life, it disconnects us from that energetic space. And so this is a reconnection, right? This is a way to come back to a state where perhaps we've been severed at some point in our life, and can reconnect with this energy. And that's why it's important to be very careful about with this energy. Do you want to comment on that?
Yes. Absolutely. With an awakening, there are energies that resist, and when you're vulnerable to these energies, there's God consciousness in the plants, but like I said before, it is a doorway, and just be careful. I actually wanted to talk more about the plants, and it makes me sad when people say, well, this is nothing but a mind manipulator. From my experience with this, it has taught me that plants have a consciousness, and they're trying to bring us closer to nature, so we coexist with nature instead of work against it. And I actually think that might be the reason why psychedelics, in plants exist. It might be a defense mechanism for us to learn how to coexist with it.
Well, and if anybody, I would encourage the audience to do some research on this particular aspect of the history of Christmas and psilocybin.
Yeah.
And see the connections that exist there.
If you find a mushroom under your tree.
That's kind of one of the interesting backstories is is this really the present under the tree? Because they grow under very commonly under pine trees, and there might be some history tied to where they grow, and Santa's red and white outfit corresponds to the some of those psilocybin plants mushrooms that help people to see the gift of Christ consciousness.
Well, you'll have to remember this when we talk to Juan Galt later, because he just did a show about mushrooms being akin to Bitcoin. So we'll get into that later.
That's very interesting.
You mentioned, this is just, it's not really related, but you mentioned a certain tribe that puts the medicine on an arrow
Yeah, that's combo. That's the frog poison. I want to say frog medicine. It's what has to be burned into your skin. It's the only medicine that has to be burned into your skin.
It made me think of so the American Indians, and
if you guys can
I would assume that. Oh, is that what that is?
Yeah, that's my combo treatment.
Oh, okay. We do a lot of arrowhead hunting and stuff right here. My dad's makes bows and everything, so we've been kind of doing archaeology with American Indian stuff ever since I was a little kid. And one of the things that we'd learned was that the arrows, the reason why you find arrows in such good condition when you're digging them in a mound is because they will only use the arrow once, because they don't want the spirit of one animal going into another animal. So,
oh, wow.
Just it's not related, but it's weird how it just made me think of that when you were talking about using it for the animal.
No, thank you for sharing. I had no idea. That's really interesting, because I lived in Arizona and I would find arrowheads all over the place that were in perfect condition. Yeah.
Huh.
Good to know. I wanted to go back. Danny, you said something about mushrooms and having a bad experience.
Yeah.
I knew somebody. I used to really sit with mushrooms for a while. It was kind of the opening to my psychedelic experiences, and the person who was growing them for me was very loving towards their mushrooms that they were growing, but they also had a lot of anxiety wrapped around them because of the state and what would happen if he got caught. And when I would sit with these mushrooms, I would feel the love that he would give them, but I would also feel that anxiety. For me, something that I've learned and I've observed with these plants that are grown is that whatever intention we're putting into them, they will show us that intention too. So if somebody does have a negative effect with mushrooms, it could be that the person who grew them, because this is why it's so important to know where you're getting your medicine from, because it can be grown by people who don't have the best intentions, are looking to grow money, and it can really play out in those plants and the mushrooms.
Yeah, I think the situation I was in, it was maybe childhood trauma on her part.
Oh, okay.
For me, it was not, they really don't affect me that bad. I just would sit and giggle, and it doesn't really get out of hand with me. Where LSD was kind of, you're a little bit more out of control, and you have this kind of a dirty feeling, in your joints and everything that you don't have with the more natural stuff.
Now, that could be argued, Danny, that it didn't affect you negatively because of your energetic state. Like, I've never known you to be really an angry person or a disturbed person or perturbed about things. Like, you're pretty much
generally not. Yeah, I mean, there are a couple of people that really annoy the shit out of me that I should get over, and a couple of them will probably be in Acapulco, and I'll do my best not to go off on them.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
I think you're still one of them. So.
So noted. Yeah. So, gosh, I mean, we've covered a lot about what's going on with Anarchawakening. It kind of wraps around the Anarchapulco conference. And you yourself, I'm told, will probably be staying away from the conference itself, but people are welcome to visit you. Are you going to be doing anything specifically during the conference, or are you just relaxing and that sort of thing?
No. Oh, no, I'll be working. I'll be making sure that the people who are participating in whatever ceremony they are in good condition. And I'll probably be driving a lot of them to and from the Princess. So I won't be going on the Princess grounds, but I will be around helping the people. So it'll be working for me. but, you know, doing what I love. So, you know, and if, you know, the people who are watching, if you're feeling like sitting, we have ceremonies every day. So, you know, they don't mingle with, you know, the schedule of Anarchawakening. So you can choose, you know, which day works best for you.
It's always the best part of any of these conferences is like, I've been to, I don't even know how many conferences I went to this year, probably 30, 40, maybe 50. I'm not even sure. And I don't think I've watched 2 or 3 speeches. I don't go there to listen to any of that. I just go to there to meet the people out in the hall. I mean, everything that's really any good about a conference is out in the hall, not out in front of the stage anyway.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I think that if you sit in a ceremony in a group setting, an intimate setting like that, you know, if you're given an opportunity to connect with these people beyond that, after that, during, you know, immediate integration and things like that, you'll probably never forget these people. You know, I think that's an incredible opportunity to create, you know, all kinds of new and interesting and long-lasting, very deep relationships.
Yeah, well, we're building our tribe. We need medicine right now, and all kinds of medicines. We have like I said, we don't only just have like these indigenous practices. We have doctors who are coming, who are offering new ways to heal the cancer, you know, so it's a range of different medicine. And basically what Anarchawakening is trying to center itself around is just medicine. What has made your life better? So yeah, come on out and see what we're about and meet these beautiful, remarkable individuals who are really trying to change the world and help people heal.
Well, Macey Tomlin, event organizer for Anarchawakening 2019. This is the first, hopefully, annual of its kind. I think it's going to be an interesting experience. I'm excited to hear what will happen. I'm also, you know, cautiously optimistic about, you know, the outcome for the various participants, and I hope that everything goes well for you. Is there anything you want to share with the audience before we depart?
I'm pretty confident that everyone will be safe and will hopefully have a very special experience with us.
And how do they connect? What's the website, or how do they find out? Nothing.
We don't really exist. It's www.anarchawakening.com. And you can get a hold of me at Macey@anarchawakening.com.
Okay. Or just close your eyes and you can get there on another plane, right?
Yeah. Telepathically communicate with me. That's the only way I communicate now.
Awesome.